Alright guys, Darren from Honest Money and welcome back to another video. So in today's video we're going to be taking on what appears to be a super controversial topic, surprisingly so, but looking at the social media debates that I've seen regarding this topic and also the comments on the news articles surrounding this issue. It's very, very surprising how passionate people are about this. So what I'm talking about is the move towards a cashless society. So what I want to do in this video is share with you the pros and cons as I see them and maybe give you guys a little bit of fuel for those social media debates. So up first, I want to take a look at the pros. And again, these are just my opinions on the pros of a cashless society. And some of you guys might actually see these pros as cons and vice versa when we get to the cons section. So the initial pro that I'm going to give you is hygiene. And never will this be more relevant than it is at the moment. I think it's really, really great to be able to pay for things, especially in the UK, up to a threshold of £45 without actually having to exchange money or to touch a payment machine. And I think on its own, that is a very, very good reason to encourage people to move towards a cashless society. The more people that we can get using contactless payments, the more we reduce the risk of things being spread at the point of payment. Up next, we have convenience, and for me, this is probably the number one reason as a pro for moving towards a cashless society, and that is the convenience it brings not having to carry cash with you. I don't really carry cash anymore, and I get caught out all the time when I go to places like takeaways, car washes, and even car parks, and I don't have the cash to pay. So that the sooner that everyone moves over to the cashless society, the more convenience it will certainly be for myself. I'm not saying it's going to be the same for everyone, but definitely convenience for me is a huge plus point, and one of the reasons I want everyone to go towards a cashless society. Following this, we have personal safety. I think it's fairly obvious if you've got £500 or £1,000 in your pocket, you'll feel at a much greater risk than you would if you just had a credit or debit card in your pocket. So I think for personal safety, not having to carry cash on you is definitely the way forward, and one of the reasons that I'm giving this a pro for moving towards a cashless society. Up next, we have consumer protection. Now, many of us at the moment enjoy consumer protection when we pay with our credit cards and buy something online. If we can move more away from cash, then more of our transactions will be using cards to pay for things, which means hopefully more of our transactions will be protected by consumer protection. Up next, we have reduced tax evasion and money laundering. Now, these topics are really difficult to cover without giving examples. I'm reluctant to give examples as I don't kind of want to single out individual trades or individual business types that this may apply to. But if I was trying to give examples, I mean, for tax evasion, I've renovated quite a few houses over the past kind of 4 or 5 years, and the number of tradesmen that I use that only want to be paid in cash or will offer cash discounts, as we know, they're not going to be paying any tax on that money. There are a lot of them about. So hopefully by going towards a fully cashless society, everyone will be paying their fair share of tax. Not that the big giants are anything to go by when you take people like Amazon, Facebook and Google. They're still paying tiny amounts of tax, despite the fact all their transactions are digital, because they're still playing within the rules, or just about within the rules. But it certainly will encourage more people to pay their fair share of tax. And with the debt that the country is in is going to be over the next year or two, it's definitely something that will benefit the government, or definitely benefit the country as a whole, if more people are paying the correct tax. And with regards to money laundering, we have some businesses in the UK. Again, like I say, it's very, very difficult to give exact examples, but if I had to pick some, I might, for example, choose a hand car wash or some cash only takeaways. Some of these places are purely set up to launder money. I'm not saying there's lots of them or any particular ones, but there's certainly some examples of how money can be laundered or tax can be evaded, and these could probably all be solved or at least mitigated by going to a cashless society. Up next, we have environmentally friendly. So no one is carrying about notes, no notes are being printed, no coins are being made. So I think it's environmentally friendly and beneficial. No one has to make emergency trips to the cash machine. So definitely environmentally friendly to not have to use cash. We also have international payments, so those of you that enjoy your holidays rather than having to go to the Bureau of Change to change up your money and get ripped off with extortionate exchange rates. Hopefully people will be able to offer competitive exchange rates if all payments are digital. And then finally, as a kind of a perk, we all should enjoy smaller wallets and smaller purses, as I'm not going to be fatted out with lots of coins and big fat stacks of notes. Instead, we'll have tiny wallets with just a few cards in, or hopefully my ultimate goal is to get rid of my wallet completely, just have all of my payment methods on my phone. So hopefully you guys have found those pros useful. I'd love to hear your opinions on them. Like I say, some of you guys may see some of these pros as cons. So if you do, let me know in the comments. Let me know why you think the other way. I'd love to hear from you guys. Up next, we have the cons. So these are the cons for why I think it's a bad idea to move towards a cashless society. So the first thing are data breaches, cyber attacks and hacks. So what I mean is that data, all that money, how safe is it? Now, I know there are lots of systems in place and backup systems, but still, in my mind, it isn't impossible that that data could be breached. So if all of your money is held digitally, if there is one major attack somewhere, could you potentially lose that money? That is a big concern of mine. So that is why I've put that at the top as one of the cons towards moving towards a cashless society. Up next, we have power cuts. How are we going to pay for something if there is a power cut? Now, I know you might think, well, most shops won't be able to actually sell you something there's a power cut anyway, but there would still be a number of transactions that could have still taken place if cash was being used. So power cuts is a big concern if we did move towards a purely digital cashless society. Up next, we have privacy concerns. So if they can see everything you buy, track everything you do, they almost know this information anyway from the amount of information people share on social media platforms such as Facebook, but we're just going to give them even more data if all of our transactions are logged. So there's certainly some privacy concerns around cashless society, and I completely understand why people would be worried about that. Up next, we have remote businesses and services, and this kind of goes back to the power cuts that I mentioned there. A lot of these remote businesses and services will need internet and power to process these transactions, and many parts of the UK have very, very poor internet coverage. So if you've got a remote business or service that relies purely on cashless payments, you may not be able to process those payments at all times. So at the moment, that would be a huge concern. So I'd certainly need to improve the nationwide infrastructure until we felt comfortable that remote businesses and services could operate in a cashless society. Up next, we have card cloning. So it's all good having this money safe. It's not on you. You don't feel at risk because you haven't got £500 or £1,000 in your pocket. But if someone can clone your card and then go and use it for contactless payments up to £45, they can rack up quite a bit of spending quite quickly without needing anything other than your card. We also have fees. So if we all go purely digital, there will no doubt be a huge raft of fees, from account fees, maybe transaction fees, and any other fees they want to pin on us, because we won't be able to do anything about it because we don't have cash as an alternative. So we could get ourselves into a position of inescapable bank fees and transaction fees. Next up, we have vulnerable people. So there could be people with learning disabilities. It might be older people who are less mobile. It could be people who maybe struggle with technology, but there will always be vulnerable people who will struggle with these types of changes. And if we ever did bring in a cashless society, it's very important that it's done a very slow transition and that people that need help are supported at all stages. And then finally, just as a jokey one, because I saw this on one of the social media arguments, someone going to town on the fact that they wouldn't be able to give out pocket money or birthday monies in a card. So that's a con for not going towards a cashless society. And finally, easy to spend, and I know this is a bit of a placebo effect, but if you put £100 in your hand, I'm sure you would spend it more slowly than you would if it was a credit card and you were spending it online. So those are just some of the pros and cons of going towards a cashless society as I see them. Like I say, feel free to disagree. Let me know in the comments. Share your thoughts about a cashless society in your comments. If you found this video useful or maybe even slightly entertaining, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in next week's video.